Well, we did have a really sleepy week for the week of Thanksgiving. Real estate sales were really slow. So I don't have a ton to report to you today on that. But in lieu of that, I do have something kind of special. I've got a couple of market predictions for 2023. So I'll throw those at the end of the video and we'll quickly go through everything else, our weekly market stats, and get to the good stuff at the very end. Again, I'm Ron Milligan with RE/MAX Select here in Portland's Pearl District. And as always, I've got the weekly market statistics for you for the full Portland metro area, including Southwest Washington, Portland, and all of the bedroom communities. So first thing up is the average sale price. It did go down just slightly, $584,873, but it is up 2.6% compared to 2021, roughly the same week in 2021. And this is kind of that range that we've been in, you know, as high as 5 in November, but as low as 0.4 as well for our weekly market statistics. Keep in mind that when people talk about appreciation, they're usually talking about a year-to-date or a 12-month rolling comparison of one year to another year. And when markets start to get a little more volatile, a little crazy like this, then they start to look at monthly, comparing month to month. The October numbers were around 5%, just above 5%. And then getting really finite, the weekly numbers, which we are tracking here. So keep in mind when you see that, you know, someone says Portland or the Portland metro area is seeing like an 8.6% appreciation rate versus last year. They're talking about either the year to date or closer to 9, they're talking about the 12-month rolling. In this case, we're just talking about our weekly market comparison, average sale price one year to the next, comparing roughly the same week. Median was up though, 555.3, 997 is a funny number. Someone was into numerology there. And that's an increase of 4.5% versus roughly the same time period last year. The number of pending deals, new pending contracts, was down 13% versus the previous week, but that's still pretty good. That number's kind of been in the high 4s, low 500s, and I was expecting to see that number lower as we started to get into Thanksgiving week, but for some reason it was still a little strong. Number of homes sold was really low, 290, and that's because Thanksgiving is a bank holiday. Title companies and the county are closed, and I think a lot of agents avoid closing the day after Thanksgiving. Agents and buyers, when they're writing their contracts, avoid that second day or that first day after Thanksgiving, just because it's kind of an unofficial holiday. So really, we probably only had 3 days to record transactions during that week. So no surprise that that's a really low number. Days on market did go up slightly from 33 to 36. It's an increase of 9%. And roughly the same time period last year, that number was 21. So average days on market was 21. Median was the same. It didn't change at all at 20. Last year, that number was 7. So the inventory, the supply of available listings for buyers to purchase, did go down. It decreased 5%, and we can see that that is now officially a trend and will probably end out this year and go into January with decreasing numbers of active listings. It came in at 4,920. However, last year at this time, the inventory was decreasing even faster. The number at this time last year was 2,459. And that means that this year versus last year, buyers have 100.01% more listings to look at than they did last year at this time. So if last year they had 1 or 2 listings to look at, this year we have 2 or 4. Number of new listings to hit the market was way down. It was only 187. That is a decrease of 53% versus the previous week. It's fewer listings, new listings, than we saw last year at this time. I think that number was just above 200, 219, something like that, last year at this time. So we're still seeing fewer new listings this year versus last year. Which has been kind of the trend for the last 4 weeks. There was a period where we were seeing more new listings this year versus last year, which was unusual because that has not been the case for the majority of 2021. So seeing fewer new listings, not a surprise going into Thanksgiving. Everyone knows, all the agents know that it's not a good time to be listing new homes. People are busy getting ready with entertaining family, travel, so on and so forth. So they're saving their listings for the following week, but anecdotally, I have not been seeing a lot of new listings hit the market yet. Today is Thursday. People usually try to list their new homes Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday so that they can catch weekend traffic. We may see a bump of new listings tomorrow, but I just haven't seen them today. It's been fewer than I typically see. The number of canceled listings was down 81. That number is usually over 100, like 120 or so. Expireds were up at 61. That number is usually around 40. The bank owns and the pre-foreclosure properties stayed the same. It's the same number we've seen. It's probably the same 45 listings that we've had on the market for the last probably 3-4 weeks. That number doesn't seem to be budging much at all. So that's a wrap for the market statistics, the weekly market statistics. But as promised, I do have some predictions, and these are for national numbers. This is for the national real estate market, so across the U.S. Keep in mind, all real estate is local. Some markets are going to do better than others for various reasons. But these are some of the bigger players in the game making their predictions for the 2023 market and where we're going to end the year as far as average sale price goes. The first one here, you can see HPES, which is the Home Price Expectation Survey. That's a survey of 100 plus economists in the field of real estate. You can see that they're at plus 2.6%. NAR is a little lower at 1.2%. Mortgage Brokers Association at 0.7%. Freddie Mac at minus 0.2%, Fannie at minus 1.5%, and Ivy Zelman down at minus 5.1%. She is certainly the lowest. She tends to be the most conservative, careful, a bit pessimistic, and in fact, some people kind of pejoratively refer to her as poison ivy, but she can often be right. She also often has to increase her numbers, revise and improve her numbers as time goes by. But I like her because I usually look at that number and I'm thinking, ooh, I don't think we're going to get worse than what Ivy says is going to be happening. However, there are a lot of folks out there that are saying that, we're going to be seeing decreases in the in the average sale price nationally as much as 20%. I think a lot of that might be kind of sensational, overexcited, click on my website sort of stuff. I'm not seeing those numbers yet from any of the bigger, more respectable players in the market. One of the recent predictions I came across recently was from Morgan Stanley. They do have a podcast, and there's a section in that podcast that's about housing, and they were talking about the 2023 market and what it's going to be looking like. One of the things that they were talking about is that they were expecting this next year to be constricted sales, so that sales are going to drop. So there was going to be kind of a bifurcation of the real estate market between volume of transactions and then prices. Affordability is the biggest problem, pushing down the number of transactions that we're going to be seeing. They're predicting that sales are going to fall by around 11%, 2023 compared to 2022. And that is really about higher interest rates, lack of affordability, prices still being high. As far as pricing goes, though, they don't believe that there's going to be quite as much pressure on home prices, and they're putting us at the end of the year at around 4% lower than where we were at the beginning of the year. So comparing 23 to 22 at the end of the year, their expectation is that we'll see housing prices nationally at minus 4%. Part of the reason that they're talking about that is that there's just not going to be a lot of supply. But they're talking about there's a lock-in effect where the average mortgage rate out there right now is 3.5%. Right now we're in the low 6s, and rates would really have to come down quite a bit before they entice those folks who are locked in at these lower rates to sell and then buy, which is going to keep our inventory and our volume down. And if the inventory, the supply is down, then that's not going to have as much pressure on home pricing. So their expectation is that prices are going to be protected by a couple of things. The builders slowing down, number one, and then number two, that lock-in effect. So the other one is Ivy Zelman. And Ivy, I watched an interview she did last week, just before Thanksgiving, and she had a few things to say. One of the things that she's talking about for the next 6 to 12 months, and of course Ivy's forte is new construction. She's always following new construction, what builders are doing, and that has a big effect on the whole real estate market. She says that right now builders still have a bit of a backlog moving properties that they've already started to the market. Maybe at the start of this year, one of the things that she mentioned was that the number of housing starts nationally was about the same that we saw for housing starts in 2006. So it was a huge volume of homes. As a result of the pandemic, folks that were, the real estate market was very, very hot, and builders started going great guns. They've dialed back since then, but they're still working through a bit of a backlog of homes to sell. So over the next 6 to 12 months, Ivy Zellman believes that in the first half of 2023, we're going to see a lot of pressure on prices just because of supply. And what she's looking at is those builders working through that backlog of homes, and that by the end of the first half of 2023, so maybe around June, July, that most builders will have worked through that. Beyond that backlog, they've really pulled back on the number of new starts that they've been having. So we're going to see a lower supply. She also points to that lock-in effect with folks with really low interest rates, and how low rates are going to have to get before we loosen up some of that supply and compel those people to go ahead and sell and purchase something else, purchase their next home. But then for the second half of 2023, what she's going to be looking at is our interest rates, the cost of capital. How much, what are we going to be trading at for interest rates? And the second half of the year is going to determine what happens with housing at that point. If rates are still high and money's still expensive, then it's going to be a bit of a slog through the balance of 2023. If rates are a little more, a little lower, that may bring more buyer demand back to the market. Especially if prices have fallen and we've got lower prices plus lower interest rates, could help with affordability and maybe make the end of 2023 a little better, at least better than the start of 2023. So that's what I have for you today. Thank you for watching to the very end. I do appreciate that. And then if you would do me a favor and give me a thumbs up, a like. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And if you know of someone who might be interested in the content here, please feel free to share this video with them. I would love that. And then of course, if you're curious about what's going on in your specific area, all real estate is local. I'm more than happy to share what I know. Just reach out to me, however you like to communicate, and we'll get the conversation started. All right, we'll see you next week.